Hey guys, so in this video I'm going to be discussing if taking the bar exam and ultimately passing prepares you for the practice of law. So if you want to know what my take is on the bar exam and how it correlates with the practice of law, keep watching. So the big question is, if I pass the bar exam, will I be ready to practice law? And the answer to that is no. I know this is a very controversial subject, but in my opinion, the bar exam does not prepare you, does not teach you how to lawyer. It does not. The bar exam is a big law school test. That's all that it is. Now, are there some aspects of the bar exam that translate to the practice of law? Yes. For example, writing motions, for the most part, is similar to the type of writing that you do in law school that's expected of you on the bar exam. What I mean by that is the same expectation for having the issue, rule, analysis, and conclusion in your law exam courses and on the bar exam is there when it comes to drafting motions during the practice of law. You need to have the issue highlighted in some way. Generally, people do that by making that their heading. The rule needs to be incorporated in whatever area of the motion you're drafting, whether that be the topic, the body, the conclusion. There needs to be a rule prior to you discussing the analysis and the facts. Okay, and that's similar to what you would do in law school. You also need to have an actual analysis. You need to show the reader, the judge, opposing counsel, how that rule fits into your facts. And there needs to be a conclusion. So, is there similarity between the bar exam and the practice of law? Yes, in that regard, in terms of writing. But then again, everybody's different, and the expectations for writing is different at different firms. The general rule, however, is that there needs to be an issue. There needs to be a rule, an analysis, and a conclusion, because you have to show the reader what the rule is and how that correlates to the facts of your case, right? So that never goes away. That transitions to any area of law, whether you're practicing civil law or criminal law. If you're writing a motion, you better have the rule in there, the rule of law in there. That has to be in your motion. You better have an analysis. You better show that judge, opposing counsel, or whoever you're drafting this motion for, how that rule correlates to your facts. And there better be a conclusion. So yeah, there are similarities in that regard. But when it comes to what you learned in law school and the memorization portion of that doesn't translate to the practice of law. You don't have to go to court and remember every single rule of law that's mentioned in your motion, or argue before a judge the rules of law that you've memorized in your head. That's not necessary. You're able to have the law, the rules at your disposal. You're not required to have this, just like this memory bank in your head with all of these legal definitions like you are in law school. And so I think that's where a lot of people get it wrong when it comes to the idea that the bar exam determines or equates to the practice of law. It does not. It does not. The practice of law is totally different. Honestly, the bar exam really has nothing to do with the practice of law. Because even if the writing that you do on the bar exam is similar to the practice of law, you learned that in law school. You didn't need the bar exam to learn how to write. You learned how to write in law school. Like I said, the bar exam, all that is a big law school test. It's a compilation of civil procedure, constitutional law, community property, wills and trusts. I mean, whatever they choose to pick right? Because certain topics are picked on the bar exam. It's not like you have to, you're not tested on every single subject you learned in law school. Now, in terms of the MBEs and the multiple choice, you are expected to know criminal law, criminal procedure, civil procedure, constitutional law, contracts, real property. Those topics are going to be on the multiple choice. So you have to know that no matter what. But when it comes to certain electives like professional responsibility, community property, wills and trusts, remedies, evidence, those items may or may not be tested on the bar exam. And so you just really have to be aware of that. But the bar exam does not determine if you're going to be a good attorney. Passing or not passing the bar exam does not determine where you're going to work as an attorney. It just really does not. It basically is like the final endpoint of your law school experience. That's really all it is. I really honestly don't even think the bar exam is necessary to practice law, but many states require it. In California, it's required. And so I think that's where a lot of people get tripped up. They think, oh my gosh, I passed the bar exam, I'm going to get a job at a Fortune 500 company. That's not necessarily true. Oh my gosh, I didn't pass the bar exam, I'm not going to be a good attorney. That's not true. Like I said, there's no correlation. When you get into the practice of law, you realize, one, you forgot a lot of the rules of law, because after you take the test, you're not like, there's some things that are going to stick in your head, of course, obviously, right? Because you've seen it so many times. But you're not going to remember everything you study for the bar exam. You're not required to. You have the internet at your disposal at these law firms. You have the Rutter's Guide. You have jury instructions. You have the penal code to look. I mean, there's certain resources that you have at your disposal in the practice of law, like at whatever firm you're at or whatever public entity you're working at, that you can utilize to help you in writing that motion, to help you in arguing this or arguing that, or in persuading opposing counsel as to this issue, or whatever the case may be. So to say that the bar exam correlates to the type of attorney you're going to be, the type of job you're going to get, is just simply not true. Now, you do need the bar exam in many states in order to practice law. Yes, you have to pass the bar exam in many states to practice law, but that does not determine the type of lawyer you are going to be. Like I said, once you get into the law firm or the public entity place of employment, a lot of the stuff you learned in law school and that was tested on the bar exam, you don't even remember. And you're not expected to. So, like, a lot of that's out the window. You really don't get good, I guess, at practicing law without actually experiencing it. It really is an individual experience. It really is something that you have to experience in order to get comfortable with, get good at. It's not like, oh, I graduated law school. Oh, I passed the bar. I know exactly what to do when I get to my first law firm. No, not at all. A law firm is a business. I understand school is a business as well, but it's a totally different business. When it comes to private practice, there are individuals' money, usually the CEO, the office manager, whoever the head person of that firm is, their money is at stake. And whatever equity partners are involved, shareholders, their money is at stake. So it's a little bit different than a school that's publicly funded. You know what I mean? And so while you can take a lot of what you learned in law school and what was tested on the bar exam into practice, it's not going to be much help. It's really not. You got to see how that law firm runs as a business. You got to figure out what that culture is. You got to figure out what your employer is looking for, what your partner's looking for, what the senior associate that you're working for is looking for. That's how you get good at the practice of law, is by determining what's expected of you and then executing. So it's a totally different world from law school and the bar exam. Totally different. They're two separate things in their entirety. And so it's just really interesting when people come up to me or I hear people say, oh, so-and-so didn't pass the bar exam. He's not going to be a good attorney, or she's not going to be a good attorney. Well, how do you know that? The bar exam does not equate to what type of attorney you're going to be. Now, does the bar exam help? And does law school and your ranking in law school help in determining what type of job you're going to get? Yes, it can. If you come from a big law school that's ranked top in the nation, you probably have a better chance, and you pass the bar, you probably have a better chance of landing that Fortune 500 company job than someone who went to a lower ranked law school and didn't pass the bar exam. Yes, absolutely. But if we're talking about two individuals who went to the same school and one passed the bar exam and one did not, and we're talking about who's going to be the better attorney, you can't determine that. We haven't seen them in practice yet. Now, if we change the scenario and we change the facts and we say one individual has been practicing for 6 years and has done X, Y, and Z, and the other individual has only been practicing for 1 year or 2 years and hasn't done X, Y, and Z, then yeah, there's a difference in their skill level at that point. Still doesn't determine who's going to be the better attorney overall. But at that point, you can differentiate the two. But when we're talking just two people fresh out of law school who both took the bar exam, who both passed, or who both didn't pass, or one passed and the other passed, and saying who's going to be the better attorney, you can't determine that solely based off of class. You can't even determine that based off of what their grade was in law school. Schooling is different than actual practice. And that's what makes me frustrated sometimes with certain employers, because I will see, and I've experienced in interviews, certain employers get so caught up in the prestige of what school an individual went to and how many times it took them to pass the bar exam and what school what ranking their school was at in the and it's like, really, does that matter? That doesn't determine how good of a worker this individual is going to be. Maybe this person wasn't good at school, but is a great worker. They've been working since they were 15, 16 years old and have a great work ethic. So you can't base how someone did in school, where they went to school, off of how they're going to be as an attorney. I think that that's where a lot of employers get it wrong. I think employers pass up a lot of great candidates and potential attorneys because they didn't pass the bar the first time, or they didn't go to a top ranked school. And that's their loss, because I feel like you really can't measure how good a person's going to be in practice without actually seeing them. I don't care what school they went to. I don't care what their ranking was in law school. That does not correlate to the type of attorney they're going to. So overall, in my opinion, the bar exam and passing the bar exam, your law school experience, does not equate to the type of attorney you're going to be, does not determine what type of attorney you're going to be. It really just does not. The only way you can determine how good you're going to be in practice is by actually doing just that, practicing. Getting out there in the field, taking those depositions, dealing with opposing counsel, arguing those motions, drafting those motions. That's how you're going to determine the type of attorney the individual is going to be. Now, I do understand why sometimes employers look at the type of school that the candidate went to, because if they have nothing else to go off of prior to determining whether they're going to give you an interview or not, they have to look at what type of school you went to, because I guess the type of school you went to determines how hard you work. It really doesn't, but if you have nothing else to go off of, I can understand why initially that is something that the employer looks at to determine if they want to interview you or not. But to pass up most people or anybody who didn't go to a top-ranked school in the nation is just ludicrous to me, because I think there are a lot of good, hardworking people out there who would be great attorneys if they're given the opportunity to get the interview. I think that there's this stereotype that if you went to a lower ranked school, you're not as hardworking as somebody who went to a higher ranked school, which is not necessarily the case. Sometimes people go to a lower ranked school because they got a full ride scholarship, or because they needed to be close to home because they have a family at home, or whatever. And so that's not the only determining factor in how good a person is going to be. And it should not be the determining factor in how good a person is going to be in practice. I think that a lot of employers need to give individuals a chance and not solely go off of whatever school they went to, what their GPA was in that school, and maybe go off of what their resume says about the work they did in their community, what their resume says about the internships and the externships they participated in. Maybe give a person a chance based off that. Because in my opinion, passing the bar exam the first time, going to a top-ranked school, being top-ranked in your class absolutely does not equate to the type of attorney you're going to be. I have been at 5 different firms, and I can tell you, I have worked with people who have been at the top-ranked schools, Harvards, Yales, and I've worked with people who've been at lower-ranked schools. And sometimes those people who went to the top-ranked schools are good attorneys, sometimes they're not. Sometimes the people who went to the lower-ranked schools are bad attorneys, sometimes they're good attorneys. And so it really just depends on that specific person. So, all in all, to answer the question, does the bar exam, passing the first time, does law school, being top ranked in your class, going to a top ranked school, determine the type of attorney you're going to be? The simple answer is no. So if you guys enjoyed that video, like it, share it, leave me some comments, let me know what else you guys want to see. I'm here for you. Until the next time.